So when I was reflecting on this Sunday's gospel, two things kind of struck me. There's kind of the obvious John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life. And that's kind of like the big verse, right? You see it on billboards on the highway, you see it everywhere. And it's one thing just kind of hear that. But the other thing that really struck me was we get this little detail about who Jesus is speaking to. It's this guy named Nicodemus. Nicodemus is a really interesting character. He's a Pharisee, he's a leader among the Pharisees, so he knows a lot, he's got a really important job, and he's got status. But he comes to Jesus. And if you read earlier in chapter 3 of John's Gospel, we find out that Nicodemus comes to Jesus at night. And that's a really interesting theme in John's Gospel, this light and day, night and darkness. But John always includes these things for a reason. And so I think there's a lot to be gained from thinking about Nicodemus, and I think the reason why I identify and why he stands out to me so much is because in a lot of ways I am Nicodemus. I'm fascinated by the Lord and I want to know more, so I come to prayer, but I come and I kind of still hide in the shadows. Maybe I hide behind what I know, and I know that I can't pray about that, or I know that that's not what you can ask for in prayer, and so I don't bring my full self to the Lord. Or I hide behind, I'm a seminarian. Oh, I can't pray about that. We're seminarians, we don't pray about that. Or even when I worked for a parish before I started seminary as a youth minister. Oh, you're a youth minister. You have to pray this way, or you can't pray about this. And to be totally honest, to be totally vulnerable, a lot of times I just don't give the Lord my full self. I don't give him my emotions, my anger, my frustration, my sadness, because I think that there's a certain way that we have to present ourselves to the Lord. And I'm not entirely sure why I do that, what it is that makes me hide in the shadows like that. But it's not just me. Jesus tells us a little bit later in our gospel this week that the light came into the world. He came into the world, but people preferred the darkness to the light. I'm not an expert on why, but there's this story from one of my favorite TV shows, The West Wing. And there's this older character mentoring this younger character, and he tells him this story. And he says, we've got this guy, and he's walking down the street and he falls in a hole. His walls are too steep, so he can't get out. A doctor walks by, and the guy yells up, "Hey doc, I'm stuck down in this hole, anything you can do to help me out?" Doctor writes down a prescription, throws it down in the hole, and moves on. A little bit later, a priest walks by. Guy yells up, "Hey father, I'm stuck down in this hole, anything you can do to maybe help me out?" Priest writes down a prayer, throws it down in the hole, and walks on. So our guy's stuck down there, and then he sees a friend walk by. He says, "Hey Joe, it's me. I'm stuck down in this hole. Can you help me out?" And the friend jumps down in the hole. Our guy looks at his friend and says, "What are you doing? Are you stupid? Now we're both stuck in this hole." And the friend says, "Yeah, but I've been down here before, and I know the way out." I think there's a parallel here in my own experience of the spiritual life, because we can appeal to what we know or to people, but at the end of the day, it's Jesus who comes down into our darkness and enlightens it and illumines it and brings us up out of it. But it's hard for us to do that, and we have to ask for it. And I think Lent is a really great time. Lent's this time of increased fasting and almsgiving, but it's also a time of increased prayer. And so I think there's an invitation for us, especially reflecting on this gospel and reflecting on the example of Nicodemus, to really come to the Lord be more authentic, to kind of drop what we know and drop our status and be more authentic and be more open with him. I think that's what it really means, and that's when we can fully kind of embrace that John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life. It's not just about believing, it's about knowing the Lord, and the Lord knowing you too.